Hey Chick Chatters, we're back for episode 5 of Love is Blind, and we pick up where Uche is talking to the guys after the failed engagement. Aalyiah kind of ditched him and she took off and he has no idea why, so he's talking to the guys, kind of venting about it a little bit. Says there were no doubts with her. He doesn't really understand. He feels a little bit blindsided.
It's important to point out that when he's talking to the men, he does let them all know that Lydia was somebody that he dated in the past. And he says, and this part is important for later in another episode, that it's one thing to just see someone's ex out and about, and it's another thing to have to live under the same roof with. And even Milton says under his breath, he's like, oh yeah, we haven't really talked about this yet. They bring all that up, but then he's in the confessional and they ask if we can get her on the phone. Do you want to talk to her? And he says yeah. So they get her on the phone and they just say each other's names to each other right away.
It's like drug out, like Uche. Where were you?
So she says she has had an exchange of words with Lydia. I don't know. I get it. I do get the perspective that it can be hard to live with somebody's ex. And there was a lot going on in the last episode that we saw that Lydia was sharing with Aalyiah. So I could see how she could maybe have reached a breaking point, but it sounds like Aalyiah has said something to Lydia. We don't really know what that is yet. I think it's really dumb how Uche says, you let some girl come in between us, because it's not some girl that you see on the streets. It's your ex that she's living with. And he just said as much. So I don't know. It's not a great reason to leave, but he didn't have very great responses, in my opinion.
Well, for me, this is just another strike against Netflix, because they had an exchange of words. Why didn't I see it?
True.
Why didn't I see the exchange of words between Lydia and Aalyiah? Or are they just saving that for the reunion, like another cutesy scene or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, they did end up showing us the date between Lydia and Uche eventually. But yeah, you'd think that they would show us what happened. I think they just wanted it to be dramatic that she didn't show up. But Aalyiah does suggest when they're on the phone that maybe Lydia saw your email and followed you here. And at the first time I watched it, I was like, I don't know. That's a stretch, but it's possible. But the second time I watched it, his reaction was completely out of proportion. He's dropping F-bombs that he wasn't dropping before. He got really defensive. And I don't know, that just made me feel like maybe it's true. He said something about why the would you ask me that? He just got so rah, as soon as she said that. And I was like, yikes, okay.
And who's to know, because we have all these holes from Netflix anyway, so who's to know what's going on? We don't know the exchange of words between Lydia and Aalyiah. We don't really know what Uche is talking about here, so
I think, it's important to know that Uche and Aaliyah's and Lydia's relationship is all very produced. Obviously, it's all in some way they have a real life relationship with each other, but a lot of this stuff is not what it seems on these episodes. This is our reaction to what they're showing us on Netflix.
Yeah, but Aalyiah does tell Uche that Lydia smothers her and she was still saying things that she didn't want to know about. And he was like, well, why didn't you tell me? And she's like, well, you didn't react well to me having a flaw, which was true. He did not react well to her cheating on somebody else. He's like, I got better after that. I understand a lot of the things he's saying, but it is kind of coming across like I know better than you do.
Yeah.
I know all, I've been through all, and he wants to be able to harp on things that he doesn't like about somebody, but at the same time, when it's something that somebody doesn't like about him, he wants to just get over it and get through it.
No, I mean, you gotta, everybody's a human. You gotta have some flexibility in what people are telling you. Yeah, Uche has a lot of flexibility for himself and not a lot of flexibility for other people. And that's not uncommon. I think we all give ourselves the benefit of the doubt more than we give other people in most cases. But his is just a lot. He's pretty high on like the narcissist. He's not a narcissist, I don't know, but he's got those tendencies.
Yeah, so he kind of preaches at her. He says he doesn't really want to see her or talk to her ever again, and he gets really upset.
Just so dramatic. Like, come on.
He has a full like little meltdown and stands up and is like, okay,
He hits his little head on the fucking microphone. I die.
Yeah, Uche did not have a good time leaving. Probably about gave himself a concussion at the same time.
Yeah, it's a good thing they have those little fuzzy things. I do find it so strange, though, that, I mean, we move right on to Lydia, who has been the topic of basically just ruining another person's relationship. And there's no acknowledgement of it whatsoever. And we're just going to see her and Milton meet. Like, I'm here for it. I get it. But I just find it stupid. But here we are at Lydia and Milton meeting.
Even the exchange of words didn't faze her at all, or whatever happened. It seems like Lydia was on point. Like, you wouldn't have known if anything happened to her the night before. The first thing I noticed about Milton is that he is insanely tall, like ridiculously tall.
Yeah, we kind of laughed at last episode how he said he might die early because he's tall, but I don't know. There could be something we don't know about these men over like 6'5", because gosh, he probably has a hard time sleeping. He probably can't take a shower right without, I mean, we see the problems he has with kissing. Stacy points it out.
Oh
and speaking of kissing, that's just about all they do on their meeting. I don't know, like, it's cute, but at the same time, I feel like, I don't know, is it like immature or is that, I don't know.
I just knew my neck hurt watching it. Like, it was hard to watch. I didn't know whose neck I hurt for more was her looking up, because I'm short and I look up, but if I had to look up that high,
no, she's
or him who had to like become a gremlin.
If they were looking from behind at Milton kissing Lydia, he would just look like a headless man.
Yeah, he had to like encompass her with his shoulders or something.
The amount of relief that my body felt even just watching when he picked her up and they could both align their spines again. I must be getting old because this is painful to watch.
That's what 30 is, Brooke. All of a sudden you're like aware of your body position.
Yeah, so they just kiss a lot. They finally sit down, which allows them also to kiss some more. And Milton is pretty nervous. Yeah, but then they start their little banter, their little loving trolling of each other, and lots of kissing. Their meeting is a lot like their relationship is going to go.
What I also noticed is that Lydia matched the carpet. Because when she was walking, she blended right into me.
Oh, you're going to have to show us a picture of that one.
I'll find it. But yeah, she pretty much blended in with that carpet. So.
Oh, I need to know. I need to see that. That's funny.
I feel like Stacy did a little bit too, but because her dress was so like silky and everything, even though it was like orangish, it wasn't so like carpet, but hers was carpet. Like, she wore a cutout of the carpet.
I don't know why I find that so funny, because like later she has such a problem with Milton's carpet.
After the reveal for Milton and Lydia, we have Nick and Vanessa Lachey welcoming us to Mexico. Look at them.
They're awkward. That was an awkward. I'm like, why was the drone so far away? I felt like they were screaming at me. Get it together with them. Yeah, that was like 700 feet away. They're going to Mexico.
They have us down to 3 couples, and we arrive in Mexico with JP and Taylor. We have Izzy and Stacy, and we have Lydia and Milton. The first real people we see is JP and Taylor, who are arriving to their room, who has a violinist in it, which I thought was very awkward in a way.
At first, I wondered if JP like ordered him, but he seemed just as caught off guard as the rest of us.
JP wears red, white, and blue, Brooke. Do you think he ordered a violinist in Mexico? Like, no, he did not order a violinist in Mexico.
Oh, you're so right.
It's just funny because, like, I was thinking about it, like, so this guy just like got into their room early, has just been standing there playing a song, waiting for these people to come in.
I wonder if when they checked in, like maybe the office called, they're like, start playing the violin. Maybe he runs from room to room.
Who
when do you
suspends
tell him to
him.
leave? That's what I couldn't figure out. Like, does he just play a set and then go? Or, like, do you have to tell this man, like, get the fuck out of my room?
What was so funny is, like, they walk in and, like, he's playing and they kind of, like, barely acknowledge it. And they're just kind of, like, walking around him, like, putting their things in spots and looking at the hotel room. And then they mention him and stuff, but that's it. They do not actually, like, tell him to leave. He does gather his things at some point. You could see, like, in the blur of the background. It's so weird to me.
I did get some good insight though from the Out of the Pods podcast that they said, at least in their seasons, that when you're in the pods, a lot of times the cameras are more like hidden and there's no camera people or producers really like in the room with you, although you do speak with them. But then once you get on set in Mexico, every scene you film, even in your hotel room, has at least 2 camera humans and a producer in the room with you. So it's really the first time that it really sets in that you're like filming a reality TV show. Like, it just starts to feel more real, they said. So I think that might be what's going on with JP. At least, you know, that's what I was trying to think when I first watched this, that maybe he's just really, really nervous because he is weird. He's just weird and he won't talk. And all I can think is like, maybe he just needed a minute and this violinist is like in the room and then all of a sudden Taylor's asking him questions and maybe he's just having a hard time with it all, but it's bad. And Taylor lets him know that she cried multiple times about their first meeting and he has nothing to say.
But then they go over to Stacy and Izzy, who are like all cuddled up together, and I don't know, there's not much going on there. It seems like they're about to probably get physical.
And then we have JP and Taylor again. I think this is where they're in the hot tub. And she's looking again to connect with him. And again, he offers nothing but like these weird little rhymes. I forgot exactly what he said. I didn't write it down, but he like made some strange rhymes out of the words she was saying and asked if she wanted to go on Minute to Win It, like, which is a game show, like not what she's talking about at all.
I think he threw it out there as a joke, but it didn't land very well. But it just wasn't really a good look or a good time for that. And then he even brought up some toilet seat stuff.
Yeah. So then somehow he gets it together. He says something about her face being cute and they kiss at least, but even his kisses are weird. He's like a strange pecking hen. Like, and they're like forceful. It's like, get the fuck out of my face. Get the fuck out. He probably like had like a fat lip.
Oh my god.
That's probably why he thought that she had like injections or something, because he's punching her in the lip every 20 minutes.
So yeah, after JP pretty much hacks Taylor's face off, they showed JP and Taylor like laying in bed and talking about the reveal and like making out.
It was still a contrast though, because it was very clear that Milton and Lydia were, I mean, I felt like I was watching a softcore porn or something. They were doing it. And then it was very clear that in the bathtub, you know, that Stacy and Izzy were well on their way to that. It was a good moment, yes, for JP and Taylor, but it was still just such a drastic difference because they were really still just having their first nice moment together.
They show us them all waking up the next morning and they go to Stacy and Izzy, and one of the first things that Stacy mentions is that she was surprised how well endowed he was. She also broke their toilet.
And she gets up to go check on it and she's in this like lace honeymoon outfit and she's just like, let me go check and see if the toilet will flush. Girl, you are like a truck driver in a fairy's body.
No, but even judging by the way Izzy talks about her in the next little scene with him where he's by himself in his boxer brief things and he's like, yeah, she can really rip ass. He seemed proud. He seemed very proud
I
of
know.
that.
It's definitely not something that seems to bother Izzy, which is good because she is kind of like vulgar in that way. And that's fine. But I don't think that that's for everybody. Like some people do feel uncomfortable by that stuff.
Well, it's just going to happen in a marriage. You're just going to be ripping sometimes.
If she's a toilet plugger, then she's a toilet plugger. I mean, it's not the first time she's done this. She looks well versed in. We do see Lydia and Milton just briefly, and I just wanted to talk about it for a second because I thought it was funny. Lydia wakes up and says like, "Oh, like it was really easy sleeping with you, and like, did you think it'd be very like this easy sleeping with me?" And he responds sarcastically, and he's like, "I thought it would be very easy to sleep with you." I died.
After we see Stacy and Izzy and Lydia Lydia and Milton, we see JP and Taylor wake up and they have a different experience than the other couples. It's very weird and awkward. They have coffee and they're just kind of sitting there in silence for the most part. The funniest part to me though is when they were in bed and they have the camera on them for a second. She's like, no, you talk.
You can tell that she's getting frustrated with him. It sounds like they've been having off-camera conversations as well about the lack of talking. And he's starting to get this smirk that I don't like.
I don't know what's up with JP. I don't know if it's like a little bit of social anxiety kind of thing too, because I know sometimes people don't understand that smiling during some moments isn't appropriate. It puts me off a little bit too to see him grinning sometimes when he should be like more serious.
I just feel like Taylor doesn't seem very hard to please, at least right now. She just wants to be able to make conversation and feel comfortable. He just offers her this smirk and like the hot tub conversation. I'm starting to not like this. And it seems like Taylor does want to be happy, but she's not gonna just pretend.
JP's giving nothing. She's also crying in her confessional about it. She seems pretty like defeated in a way. It seems like she had hopes for this. Like she didn't seem to judge him on any type of average look he has or his red, white, and blue thing. Like she seemed to really be going into this with an open mind. But JP's really giving her like nothing to work with. I'm surprised that they've even had this amount of scenes for what she has to work with. Yeah, so then they go back to Milton and Lydia and they're out by the pool and they talk about how they were getting interrupted earlier by room service. Then they talk about having kids in 5 years plus, which I'm kind of impressed by because a lot of the times the women that are like in their 30s are like, I gotta have kids right now. And Lydia saw a kid from across the way and was like, no.
I admire her courage and bravery kind of to say that because I'm 30 and I know that I want to have a family soon and I'm in a position to be able to do that like and feel happy about it. But I still like Tyler and I just went on vacation. We look at families with kids and we're like, oh my gosh, like, that's just a lot. I think we all know the older that we get, it's very serious to have a kid. I think when you're young, you just are naive. Not that you can't take care of a kid. You find a way to do it. You just grow that way. But when you're older, you know how much of a commitment it is.
It's a harder leap to make when you've lived your whole life just for yourself. But I would love to see Vanessa Lachey even try to ask her about a pregnancy. I know she won't because she's banned from probably asking that this season, but I would love to see her ask Lydia.
Yeah, I just like the openness that they have or like the flexibility that it seems like they have.
Well, and I think that's good on her that he's also 24 for that because a lot of times guys in their 30s want kids now because they had already lived their 20s. Now they're ready. Yeah, so then we go to Izzy and Stacy, and Izzy is most nervous to see Lydia because they are going to have the castmates get together like they normally do out in Mexico, even though there's not many couples to see. Stacy does ask him if she's going to talk to Lydia in English. I did catch that, so that made me wonder if Izzy speaks Spanish.
He spoke Spanish to her in their first date together.
So then they go to the beach party. When Milton does walk up, someone called him Milt the Stilt, and that about took me out. This is the least amount of couples we've had in a season, so they're not really doing too much interacting with each other. It seems like a lot of their interactions are like as couples, but we do get a couple of conversations. Izzy does talk to Lydia, and he wants to talk to her about giving her closure, even though she didn't really seem to need it.
Yeah, she could not look less interested in his whole spiel about what happened for him, and she just ends his whole spiel with like, I can assure you that I'm in love with Milton. He said something in that conversation about like, if there wasn't a connection there, then I wouldn't have let it go on as long. We all got the vibes because he was giving the vibes. He gave some strange eyes that could have maybe suggested he still had a connection with her, especially now after seeing her. I'm just glad to see that didn't get messier.
I thought it was funny because Stacy says to Milton and Lydia while they're kissing, like, y'all are going to have serious neck problems. And that's exactly what I've been thinking the entire time. So I'm glad somebody voiced it to them because at least now I feel a little bit better because, man, I'm worried about their necks. I'm worried about their posture. I'm worried about their everything. And I don't even have good posture, but I'm worried about just the constant, like,
yeah, and knowing that Milton has already had a back surgery on his spine, like he's going to put his back out. Like, yeah, I love Stacy's hot takes. I loved how she described Milton, like as the surgeon. She's like, he's just the kind of guy, everybody gets everything ready and he just comes in the room. He has no idea what's going on. He's like, glove me. He just shows up at the right place at the right time.
He's sitting here with JP and he's talking to him and he's asking him about him getting as a 24-year-old would. As he, this is the same man who criticized Lydia for drinking Malibu is approaching other men like, hey, we're all 20 here, aren't we, Milton?
He is in fact wrong.
And that takes Milton back a little bit. He's like, oh, oops, like he stepped on a nerve or something, like crap. But JP seems okay with talking about it. He just says he's not getting anything and that it's been kind of challenging since getting out of the pods. And as he's having a conversation with Milton, we go over to Taylor, who's having a conversation with Stacy about the same thing. She's not comfortable with JP since the pods, that things have changed, and she might have made some mistakes by saying yes to him. Stacy just tells her she's got to step up if she wants it to work. And I guess that she doesn't know all what's going on, I wish Taylor would have gave her a little bit more information, like he doesn't talk, he doesn't this, he doesn't that, because maybe Stacy's a fun person, so maybe she could have helped her come up with ways to get him talking. Because sure. I also think something they could have done to help that was play games like they did in the pods, like those little conversation game. To do something that they did in the pods might be helpful for them to connect outside of the pods.
And I think one couple actually did that. I can't remember if it was the first or second season, but they had a hard time with the physical part and they shut the door between them and talked to each other for a while, and it seemed to help. I don't remember who it was, but when they were in the hot tub earlier in this episode and they were talking things over about how it was different from the pods, I was screaming at my TV. I'm like, just turn your backs to each other and even touch each other so that they're still, in physical contact.
Sometimes it could be your mind catching up with your body catching, you know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe it is because you formed the connection that way that something like that would be helpful, at least as an exercise to try.
Taylor does say to Stacy that she just doesn't feel comfortable with him anymore, so it might even kind of be beyond that point.
And it doesn't seem like Netflix provides any guidance to help them throughout these trials, nobody to help counsel them or anything of the sort, which
not a flashcard, not a pod.
Yeah. And sometimes though, when you go into a marriage, you do get counseling.
Yeah, I wish that they would provide something. Then Taylor and JP come back together and Taylor comments about all the other couples being good. She's like, well, the rest of them are fine and dandy. Here we are just kind of hating everything. I mean, there's not much to say anymore at this point. And so then Taylor was like, oh, do you want some food? And he's like, that. She's like, excuse me?
She's like, are you mad? He's like, no. I think JP just struggles with communicating with her, and I think it even is frustrating him. He doesn't know what to do. He seems very internally frustrated, because sometimes guys don't really know what you want of them in that moment. They'll just try to talk about other things just to kind of keep it moving, to keep it going, because if your problem is awkwardness, then all right, then let's try to
not be awkward. It seems like they both know too that they just don't have a lot to go off of. When you're talking to someone, you're usually talking about fiance or your husband, you're talking about your lives together. And their lives together consists of this really awkward pod meeting that seems like it was even worse than we thought it was. And then they get together and they try to fix all of that, and that ended up being bad.
Right. And then their physical connection is pecking and all this stuff. So it's not very smooth sailing for Taylor right now. She says that he's quiet and she's okay with quiet, but she's never made a lifelong commitment to quiet.
The episode pretty much ends with JP saying to Taylor, I'm never giving up. And it's that's nice and everything, but you're not trying either. So it's not really fair to say I'm never going to give up if you're also not going to try. Now you're just trapping somebody.
I feel even if you throw out a question here and there, even though
something,
even if he's not comfortable doing a lot of talking, he could throw out something to get her going, but it doesn't seem like he's just sitting there staring at her, waiting for her to just keep on talking to herself. I don't know. But yeah, that's basically what they leave the episode off on, is JP telling her, all we have is now, and we should just keep going for this. And she says she's going to give it a little bit of time. You see the other couples all over each other, and these two are just kind of standing off in the ocean.
So, all right, Chick Chatters. Well, thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.